Hello everyone, Razorblade Mango here, and today I just wanted to talk about what has quickly become one of my favorite subjects to discuss on the channel, which is PlayStation's live service initiative. Specifically for today, I want to analyze what I would consider the next wave of games in this live service initiative, because 2024 I consider the opening shot of what we can kind of expect in this live service era, where we had kind of like a one extreme and then the other like complete opposite end of it, where you had one massive success and one massive failure last year, where you had Helldivers 2 being the massive success and then you have Concord being the massive failure. So I'm going to analyze what I believe are the next three big entries in PlayStation's controversial live service initiative, which are Marathon, Horizon Online, and Fair Games. And I'm just gonna go over where we are now with them, where I predict they're going to go, and my reasoning behind that. Let's start with Marathon. And this is obviously developed by Bungie, who have had a very turbulent time these past few years with multiple layoffs. They've had key people leaving their organization. They've had people leave the organization and go to Sony itself. They've had multiple projects canceled, including a third-person version of Destiny that was supposedly in the works. Not Destiny 3, but some weird third-person version of it. One of their projects got transitioned over to Sony Interactive, and that team that was incubating it was spun out into their own new team within PlayStation. Key leaders have left. It's been very turbulent. And Marathon has not been spared this turbulence, because this has had a very rocky development, where you've had people that have spoken to insiders say that they're unsure whether or not this game will succeed. It's another one of these where Bungie have got themselves in this corner where this game needs to be a success for their long-term future to be healthy. You've had some key people leaving the game, like you had Christopher Barrett, who was the game director, a longtime Bungie employee. There's mixed reporting on this, whether he got let go or left on his own accord due to alleged sexual harassment stuff. And I think the thing with Marathon is that the reveal of this being a PvP extraction shooter was disappointing to quite a few old school Marathon fans. And I personally have some reservations about whether or not the market will accept another big extraction shooter. But despite Bungie's screw-ups, I still foresee this being very successful, at least in the short term. Because, let's be real, even with their recent troubles, Bungie remains a big name in the video game industry. And they have, similar to the likes of Bethesda and Blizzard, they have a built-in and very loyal fan base. This is one of those companies that the name could just flash on a screen and people will get excited. You can make that argument about a lot of video game publishers, developers, but Bungie has been around the block enough times to have that very large, very loyal fan base. Specifically with Marathon, there are two benefits that I see in this that I think will make it very successful in the short term. Bungie knows how to make great feeling gameplay, and I think the art direction on this game looks stunning. And you all know I have zero respect for something like Destiny as a product, but that and Halo as well have some of the best feeling gunplay and traversal I've ever experienced in a game. The times that I have gone back to Destiny, what I am continually impressed with is how good it feels to just simply play that game. Because there are a lot of developers that make good feeling games, but there are very few that make great feeling games. Like the guns feel just right. Moving around the environment feels fun and fluid. And Bungie, for all their problems, Bungie is very, very talented at this. I also think this candy-colored synthetic look that this version of Marathon has is very pleasing to my eyes. That initial trailer, even though it doesn't show any gameplay, there are so many striking visuals in that debut trailer, especially with the bold color palette that they're going for. Again, the lighting, it just looks great. And I especially love that shot in the trailer of the dead players' blue blood seeping into the pool of white liquid, and it just looks so cool. I love the direction of this. I really do think the striking art direction of Marathon is going to give this game some legs, at least in the short term. Now, long-term success? I'm not sure, because Bungie, in my opinion, is their own worst enemy, particularly when it comes to their C-suite. And even with a lot of the C-suite now gone, that was there prior and at the beginning stages of the PlayStation's acquisition of Bungie, I still have concerns that Bungie is going to kind of snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, so to speak, because they just seem to make really dumb decisions regarding the long-term health of their game and onboarding to new players. I mean, notoriously, Destiny is very difficult to get into these days because a lot of the DLC that gives you context as to what's going on is gone. You can't even play it. They sunset content. They get rid of weapons all the time. And this really has just bitten Bungie in the ass in the long term with Destiny. I have my doubts that they're going to do something similar like that with Marathon, just because I would hope they would learn their lesson by this point. You know, especially with PlayStation much more heavily involved, things might be better, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they will be good. So my analysis of Marathon, I foresee this being a big success in the short term. Long term, I don't know. That's still up in the air for me. Now, the next live service I want to talk about is Horizon Online, which is obviously the big multiplayer entry in PlayStation's Horizon franchise. And this, in my opinion, is one of PlayStation's riskiest gambles, because this game has been in development for a long time. They have invested a lot of time and money into this, especially with the hope that the Horizon name is going to carry this big cultural wow factor to it that I'll get to that later. As far as Horizon Online itself, I think this game has a 50-50 chance of really coming out of the gate strong and succeeding in the long term. One of the reasons it gives me pause is this rumored cartoonish art direction that the game seems to have. I think this could go one of two ways. It could either look really unique, and that might work, but I just can't really foresee a world where a cartoonish looking Horizon multiplayer game that isn't Lego will be received warmly, because the big thing with these Horizon games is the graphical fidelity. That's one of the main draws that a lot of people have. Horizon is used to sell people on the power of the PlayStation brand, because when you look at, despite how I feel about the series as a whole, I think as far as raw technical detail, Zero Dawn and Forbidden West are outstanding. They look incredible from that perspective. The Decima engine, I think, is a wonderful tool in Sony's kit, but if you take that away and put in a more Fortnite-looking art style, how is that going to work with people who are used to seeing Horizon look like how it looks in Forbidden West or Zero Dawn, for instance? And I'm also skeptical if there is a mass multiplayer audience for a more casual version. Horizon is basically a more casual version of Monster Hunter. It's for people like me, who I just find Monster Hunter to just be too grindy, too much. I can never get into Monster Hunter despite how much I've tried. Horizon, that kind of thing, where it's much more streamlined and casual, that I can get into. But as far as a mass multiplayer Monster Hunter-ish game that isn't Monster Hunter, we already had a canary in the coal mine regarding this. That was Wild Hearts from Omega Force, if you guys remember that. That very obviously positioned itself as a Monster Hunter competitor, and it just didn't do all that well, despite Koei Tecmo saying it was a success, in quotes, I think we all know that's suspicious at best because they avoided actual numbers, and there's also the little itty bitty problem that it was so successful that EA dropped support for it after only 7 months. To be fair, speaking of sales, Horizon is a sales success. Despite its questionable cultural relevance, the series has done pretty damn well for itself if we're strictly looking at its main 2 entries. I mean, you just look at the sales figure for the original Horizon game, Zero Dawn. It sold about 25 million copies, which is great for a new IP. That is wonderful for a brand new IP that for a long time was only available on one console. I just have serious doubts that Horizon is this massive cultural phenomenon that PlayStation has kind of believed that it can be. And also, despite the sales success, Guerrilla is notoriously bad at timing Horizon's releases when it comes to maximizing its relevance and impact, because both times they release the big games, like Zero Dawn, kind of uncut by Breath of the Wild. Forbidden West, definitely undercut by Elden Ring. What's going to be the game this time that undercuts Horizon Online? Because I don't even think this is going to come out this year. If they're smart, they will want to get away from Monster Hunter Wilds as much as they can, because if this release is even close, like maybe 4 months after Wilds, that's not gonna go very well. Because why would you, as a fan of Monster Hunter Wilds, leave Monster Hunter Wilds, especially if it turns out to be really good? Why would you leave that and go to a more casualized, cartoonish version of Monster Hunter? It doesn't make much sense to me. And what I'm the most curious to see with this game is that this is going to be the major litmus test to determine the level of Horizon's mass appeal, because PlayStation, and especially Herman Hulst, have been pushing Horizon as a major franchise for years now. But I remain unconvinced that it has the potential to be this cultural juggernaut that they think it can be. But I would be more confident in this thing's success and cultural relevancy if something like Lego Horizon Adventures didn't come and go like a fart in the wind. I mean, you have Lego, one of the biggest brands on the planet, mixed with Horizon. Lego games typically sell very well, and it kind of just came and went. It's not really a good sign as far as breaking outside of the core gaming audience to increase Horizon's cultural relevancy. This one, unlike where I'm sure Marathon will be a big success in the short term, I am not convinced that this is going to be a big success in the short term. I think the name Horizon is going to get people on board for a little bit, but this needs to have a damn good first impression. This is probably why they've held on to it for so long and haven't shown it yet. Is because they need to make damn sure, especially after something like Concord, they need to be damn sure that this is going to be this is going to have a big pop when they first show it. And that will be very fascinating to see whether or not that actually happens. Now, the final game that I want to talk about, and this is one that I have talked about plenty of times on the channel before, but I'm going to go over it again because this is a game that, to me, it defines this, at least the initial idea, the initial strategy, the initial mindset, the initial level of creativity behind PlayStation's live service initiative, and that's going to be Haven Studios' Fair Games. For a few years prior to its official unveiling, PlayStation and Haven were hyping this thing up. You had people like studio lead Jade Raymond describing it as, and I'm directly quoting her, she described it as, quote, a AAA multiplayer experience with a vision to build a systemic and evolving world focused on freedom, thrill, and playfulness that will keep players entertained and engaged for years, end quote. When Haven was acquired, you had Herman Hulst saying, and again, direct quote, we were inspired by Haven's vision for creating a modern multiplayer experience that brings gamers together in positive and meaningful ways. We are confident in their creativity and technical expertise to deliver on such an ambitious project, and we're thrilled to invest in their journey developing a new original IP for PlayStation, end quote. Why does this sound familiar? Oh, because it's the exact same kind of talk that was thrown out about Concord, where you had the studio Firewalk at the time talking about how Concord, we aspire to build a positive environment that will create amazing moments, and it creates the thrill of gameplay, of the core of multiplayer experiences. You had Herman Hulse coming out and saying, I played this game a number of years ago. This is before it was acquired, by the way, saying, I played this years ago and it was so good. I was so impressed by this. Yeah, we all know how that went. And when Fair Games was finally revealed in 2023, the reception was very unkind. And I think a lot of people, myself included, collectively groaned when they saw what this ambitious project was. A PvP VE heist shooter. Yay. How inspired. And it's the most obvious insult to call this, a Ubisoft ass looking game. But, I gotta call a spade a spade. This looks like the kind of boring, out of touch slop that Ubisoft would have among their massive live service push. And personally speaking, this has to be one of the most obnoxious concepts I've ever seen, because the level of hypocrisy and lack of self-awareness in this idea is incredible. Because you are a thief that talks a good line in the trailer about how there's all these greedy scumbags out there, there's all these rich billionaires, these billionaires, they need a spanking, but we're the good guys. We're gonna go out there and get their money and get their wealth, and then we're going to become wealthy and attack other people that are trying to do the same thing to get our jewels and our loot. Yeah. Because, there are other heist shooters out there that at least things like GTA Online and Payday are honest about you being a greedy criminal. I would have more respect for Fair Games' concept if they were just like, yeah, we're douchebags. Like if that lady in the trailer didn't go on and on about how the wealthy elite are bad and all that shit. If she just came out and said, yeah, I'm a greedy bitch. I want money. I want jewels. Go fuck yourself. I'd go, okay. Like, it's obnoxious, but at least there's some semblance of honesty to it. But adding this tone of moral superiority with direct statements in the trailer like eat the rich is just, look, there's no other word for it. It's cringy. It's very cringe inducing. This whole thing just was a very bad first impression. But to be fair, we have not seen gameplay of it, and they have time to change the aesthetic and tone. The benefit that Fair Games has that Concord did not is that Haven has a lot more time and flexibility to read the room after its initial reveal and look at the feedback to make changes. And who knows, the gameplay reveal might go over really well and people might really love what Fair Games is going for. There isn't a 0% chance that this will happen. And I'm very certain that Concord's catastrophic failure will have made some kind of impact on this. But I just can't shake the feeling that the die has already been cast for Fair Games, and the results are not very pretty. This is harder to quantify with evidence other than the massive dislike ratio on the YouTube videos of its reveal trailer, but there's just this very general hostile and negative vibe around Fair Games. And I don't think it's unfair that people look at this game and see it as one of the emblems of Sony's live service initiatives. Like I do. There's this, Concord, and Marathon. I consider the big three of Sony's live service initiative, at least this initial wave of it, when Jim Ryan was still around. Because to me, this concept is just so lacking in imagination. It's everything I feared this live service initiative was going for when they first announced it. It doesn't look unique to PlayStation's sensibilities or creativity or what they usually do. It just looks like any other live service that is going to be a massive flop. And I think this will turn out to be an obvious massive flop. I will be stunned if this comes out and does not bomb immediately. That is how confident I am in this game's failure. Because it's so obvious to me that this is going to be a bomb. Same thing that I felt when I saw Concord. It's just all the siren warnings are going off in my head. That siren you hear when you're going through Silent Hill, I'm hearing that in my head when I think about Fair Games. And I'm being sincere when I say that I'm looking forward to Fair Games. I don't think this will be a catastrophe on the scale of something like Concord, because that I don't think will ever be replicated again. But I am eager to find out how this goes. I'm very, very interested to see whether or not PlayStation actually makes a big push for this game, or if they're just going to re-reveal it and then kind of just let it come and go. And just go, well, you know, we have that, but hey, look over here, Ghost of Yote. Pay no attention to that live service in the corner, the Eat the Rich simulator. Don't look at that. Anyway, those are the 3 live services that I wanted to talk about. I'm very curious. I'm being very sincere when I'm saying I'm very interested to see how these turn out. I am looking forward to when they finally drop, because I love looking into the data of these games. Love it. That's become like a favorite hobby of mine, is just looking into the data of this live service thing and trying to figure out what's going on behind the scenes, trying to analyze the little evidence that we get sometimes. I just love it. I find this whole thing so interesting. I'd rather PlayStation not do it, obviously, but if they're gonna do it, I definitely have my finger on the pulse to see what's up. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one, everyone. Goodbye.